And there's a couple other things. Ryan, you want to touch on those?
Yeah, so previously we were taking your stats that you rolled on your items and you're pushing them a little bit towards the middle. This time, or with this patch, we're going to be respecting your actual...
What's up, you guys? Gangrongzong here. Okay, so I'm sure most of you guys are aware of it already. Just in the past several hours, lots of talents got nerfed to holy hell in the PTS, the public test server. Quite a few things got nice buffs, some tanking skills, Unbreakable looks freaking amazing if it goes through, and some potential sharpshooter skill builds have come up, Reformation, Entrenched, and so on. We'll get to that later. But for the meta, the DPS talents that most people were running with, holy shit, those got bitch slapped straight into the black hole. And this is what I want to say about all of this from a macro perspective, right? From an overall angle. Yes, nerfs suck. I even made an entire video dedicated to this. They suck big time. They make you feel like shit. The whole community was going berserk, no pun intended, for several hours. But here's the catch, and it's an extremely important point I want to place emphasis on. They know. The devs know that nerfs suck. But they make sure they communicate to us about it. In fact, in the state of the game that just came out a couple of hours earlier, the creative director himself, Terry, acknowledged the issue.
You talked about talents and gear and stuff, right, Amish?
Mm-hmm, yeah. What's the intention with those?
Well, here's the intent, right? I think it's important for the community to understand, and it's important for us to make clear that we are in the process of aligning the game. And so a game this complicated, a game with this many knobs to turn, a game that has so much in it, it's a beast to keep track of, for sure. And so things get out of alignment, right? And if you happen to find something that's out of alignment and it feels really fun because maybe it's a little more powerful, we have to rein that in. And some people say, well, why don't you just buff everything? Well, in theory we could, but I think the point I'd like to get across is that there's only so high we can go, right? If you just continue to go up in a ramp and just buff everything, everything starts to become really flat. And then when we add new world tiers and how we have to scale that, if any of you have ever played World of Warcraft, you know that they continuously go through stat squishes because numbers get so big, things get so high, and they just get so overblown. So for right now, we align, and that's how I approach it, at least, is that things come down, things come up to create a level of alignment that creates a fun experience throughout the entire game. And that has to do with PvP, that has to do with PvE, that's whether you're playing co-op and solo. So I know people don't like it when we take their favorite thing and say, hey, that's 5% instead of 10. But it's an alignment, so every other thing is potentially more viable, as opposed to being a must pick. So
Ryan also chimed in later towards the end of the stream.
So I kind of want to give some more background into some of those talent changes.
Okay.
Especially the nerfs to some of the really, fun.
Sure.
Damage dealing talents.
Yeah.
So like Terry said, these changes aren't just we're nerfing this thing because it's too good, right? It's an alignment. So this isn't the only thing that's changing. We're changing the health values of NPCs and the damage values of NPCs too. So just because like right now you have to have Berserk to even do enough damage on heroic or whatever. Now we're bringing those values, the health values down because and so that way you don't have to be speccing into these talents that are way too powerful when we bring them back into alignment. So it's not just we're nerfing this because it's too much, it's too good, and now we're going to make everything way harder. It's everything. It's none of this is in isolation, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make.
They know it's an important issue to us, and while it wasn't within their purview to address it, they were scheduled to be there for PvP stuff, they did so anyway. And here's the thing, they both gave completely legitimate and logical responses to it. Their reasoning was this: the nerfs that we see coming from this first pass are just the initial changes from a whole slew of changes that are coming. something extremely critical that I think many people have glossed over is the fact that NPC health, or sponginess, and their damage output is also getting reduced alongside these nerfs. This is huge. Such a nerf to DPS talents, while very much feeling like a punch to the gut, is in the best interest of the game right now. It solves a giant problem that the game lacks build diversity. Every build has to be a DPS gun build because of how spongy the NPCs currently are. Well, Massive is choosing to attack this problem head on, while making sure that you don't feel a drop-off of power by nerfing the AI too. If gun talents are nerfed, and the tanky ones and skill ones are buffed, which we have already seen in this past to be happening, right? Then that can only help build diversity. More players can now use the tank builds that they've always wanted to, because NPCs no longer hit as hard, and they won't get shredded in seconds when they're out of cover. NPCs also no longer take as long to kill, so the damage output from tanky builds become much more viable in killing NPCs. This is the same deal for skill builds, right? It's the same line of reasoning. Absolute glass cannon builds are no longer the one and only answer, and that is fantastic for the game. And just from their very preliminary responses, from the very fact that I'm hearing a line of reasoning from another human being, it helps to placate many of my impulse fears and worries about why the hell these nerfs happened in the first place. It helps to humanize the whole issue, that I'm having a discussion with the devs rather than just being a customer that they don't care about. And we're not just getting this from one source, as reliable as it already is. I mean, it's live on the state of the game, but here's some very important tweets from the devs enshrined here in this Reddit post that got simply obliterated in the stampede of rage that happened because of the nerfs. We are not nerfing all damage talents, and all of this comes in a package with adjustments to the NPC on challenging and heroic, which is exactly what Terry and Ryan just said. This isn't done in isolation. It's part of rebalancing based on feedback that the DPS needs are insane on heroic, leaving no room to spec survivability. Again, the same line of reasoning. The devs know. They know the issues that are plaguing us. They know that when we try to go tanky, we simply don't have the DPS to take down the NPCs. The same thing for DPS skill builds. So again, the same line of reasoning. Reining in the top performers, but nerfing enemies at the same time, so that the player still feels just as powerful. And as a direct result, this allows other builds to rise up and become viable. So am I saying that the outcry was unjustified? Not necessarily. Am I saying that the nerfs are warranted? Not at all either. We'll have to see how the testing turns out on the PTS and make further judgments from there. But what I am saying is this. This is a dev team that actually bothers to take the fucking time, and a lot of time, to communicate with us. They do it professionally, through multiple channels, and quickly. There are numerous AAA companies out there that don't do this. You don't need me to name them out for you. They don't communicate for shit, they don't give any reasonings when they make changes to the game, and they don't care what you think. Time and again, PR move or otherwise, the dev team at Massive keeps emphasizing for us to give them our feedback, and I think that's something many of us take for granted. My opinion, feel free to disagree with me, but I believe they do care. And they take proper constructive feedback very seriously. Again, there are nerfs I don't agree with. May my sweet dear Model 700 rest in peace. But far and above, I'll take this level of communication and humanization over anything else. As long as Massive keeps communicating at this level, at this speed, and at this level of authenticity, I'll continue to support the game. Unless, of course, if they nerf my Model 700 again, then I'm out. Just kidding. So that's just my short take on the whole matter, but an important message that I still wanted to get across. Sometimes nerfs can be good for the overall health of the game. They will always make us feel like crap, but sometimes we have to look at the overall picture and see where the direction of the game is going. And thankfully, like I said, they are very clear in communicating that over to us, so that we can get an active part in that direction. I'll be doing another thought piece on what the specific buffs to the tanks and skills actually mean, and perhaps even try a few tank builds on the PTR myself, so make sure you stay tuned to the channel for that. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, it helps out the channel a lot. As always, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in DC.